Boys, screens, not enough free play, and conflict. Have you ever wondered why perhaps your child is always surrounded by arguments, conflict, and tension or stress when there is an attempt to engage and play with other kids? Well, today I'm going to dig into exactly that topic. I'm going to tell you why we're seeing the amount of tension and conflict that we are from some of our boys. I'm going to talk to you about some logical fixes of things that we can adjust slightly to reduce the frequency, duration, and intensity of these conflicts. And hopefully by the end of the video, you'll have a better understanding of perhaps why this is happening and what you can do to reduce the severity and stress for you. So in case you're new here, my name is Jen, and I am a former principal turned entrepreneur who now runs an educational services agency where I coach kids and parents specializing in ADHD, anxiety, deficits in executive function, school reluctance, school refusal, all of that sort of thing. So in this video today, I'm going to walk you through so many of the things I spent hours and hours on mitigating and coaching and refereeing and dispelling in the many years where I worked as an elementary school principal on the playground, that is, not during instructional time, but during student break time. And it's now something that I can't unsee. So let's get into it. Do you have a child who is riddled with controversy? Everywhere he seems to go, there's always some kind of argument. Maybe it eventually leads to physicality. So why is this happening to so many of our kids, especially boys? Number one, it's due to lack of free play. We are in an era where kids are living on their screens, so a phone-based childhood, a screen-based childhood. This is really taking a toll on the lack of the ability to play physically and imaginatively face-to-face with other peers. We are seeing weaker and weaker social skills, and we're seeing perhaps more friendships. In other words, friendships where they are greater in number, but the depth or the quality of those friendships are less. They're perhaps more shallow or surface level, if you will. So that's sort of big thing number one, the lack of free play. Secondly, we're seeing that these boys, they cannot legislate themselves. They cannot make up the rules and agree to follow them. They have a great deal of difficulty acting as, let's call it, judge and jury. They can't assess the violations. They can't follow the rules as a whole. And quite frankly, the problem-solving capability is very, very low. And because of this, we see adult intervention very early. We see overreach of adult supervision on the playground. And then there's really no lack of independence for the boys or the kids to practice the skill of sorting through it on their own without becoming very argumentative, without there being a large explosive episode where it is name calling and all kinds of derogatory things that have nothing to do with trying to solve the dispute at hand. And really, we're seeing kids who are experiencing very low threshold for being able to tolerate when they've seemed to have been wronged or harmed or whatever the case may be during the activity. Let me give you an example. really frequently during my time in schools, the last 4 minutes of the recess break, there would be all kinds of problems. Let's use soccer as an example, which was very common. I could almost predict to the minute in my role as principal when the thing would explode and blow up. You could see it building and building because it got more chippy. It got, the kids had less patience and tolerance for hearing the other kid's point of view if they were disputing a call or a rule. That happened time and time and time again. And because our kids were not exposed regularly to that physicality of free play and all the beautiful things that come along with it, we're seeing a real decline in their ability to legislate and be judge and jury. The final thing that's contributing to this heightened amount of conflict is exactly following up on what I said a minute ago. They do not have the wherewithal or skill to self-govern. They see things very one-sided. It's black or it's white. There's no ability to see the nuance and the gray. There's no ability to see another person's point of view. In fact, even entering into a conversation about listening to another person's point of view is a difficult skill for these kids. And because their time spent on screens is so lopsided and one-sided, that ability to listen, pause, talk, reflect, that back and forth, it's really just not there for many of our students. So it results in a lot of tension, conflict, and upset. The kids don't have the opportunity to practice those skills when they're playing a game behind a screen. We're also seeing really, really narrow perspectives. The open-mindedness is not there. The closed and fixed decision, the decision's already been made and there's no discussion around it. That's it. It's over. We're moving on. And, you know, we're also seeing perhaps a higher quantity of friends behind screens when the kids are playing games online. Yeah, there's a lot of kids contributing. Let's say it's a game console and they're chatting and talking to one another, but that is not the same, the outcome or the intended outcome, the positiveness, the positivity of that isn't necessarily there when you're behind a screen. And because of that, the situations when they do get to real life play are misread and misperceived. That happens so frequently, I cannot tell you. And the other thing that I've noticed is the pace of the exchanges. There are so many people providing input. So those kids, especially that might have a slower processing speed, where they're receiving language or receiving a verbal instruction or prompt in an auditory way, they're not able to keep up with the flow of the conversation because all of the kids are talking over one another, and there's really no calm or organized process to be able to solve these problems where it is a way of collaboration. You go, I go. We don't call names. So those really are the foundational things that we're seeing because of the kids playing so much, so being on screen so often. Lack of free play. They really can't legislate or be judge and jury, and their ability to self-govern, it's really, really in deficit. So what do we do in order to boost these things? Well, The obvious one is reducing the amount of screen time. And I know that that's really difficult to do in some households, but rest assured, those soft skills, our kids are just not getting it. They're not practicing those in a robust enough way when they're hiding behind a screen. And I think those soft communication skills and social skills are really going to be a coveted currency in the marketplace for years to come. So that's why it's super important to be able to reduce these conflicts and levels of upset. Let's get back to vigorous free play. I would always say to my staff when I was working in schools, I love to see the kids when their hearts are pounding and they have sweaty heads. We want those heart rates elevated. We want them to be really ripping around and burning that energy. It's good for their brains. It's good for just about every facet of how they learn and manage themselves. Again, we're right back to that skill of self-governance, self-regulation. Let them struggle. I'd love to see less early adult intervention for every small little problem, less adult involvement right away, less correction and coaching right away. I know it's difficult because you know in a flash what the immediate fix is and how to mediate and support that conversation to problem solve. But if we, the adults, are continuously jumping in too soon, our kids are not having the opportunities to practice those skills and fumble and figure out their own way to be able to do so effectively. And we're also going to need to be teaching those executive function skills explicitly. In other words, if we, the adults, if we blow up or lose our cool, that's what we're modeling. If you are the person who's shouting and name calling at your kid's hockey game where there's tension and conflict with the officials or other fans in the arena, that's really what your kids are learning and absorbing, whether we want to know it or not. So that ability to manage emotions and model it and talk about it really become paramount in reducing some of these face-to-face conflicts. A couple more things as I'm wrapping up. You really want to figure out a transition time. So if things are elevated and heightened and things have gotten really tense, in other words, the RPMs are up high, figure out the transition. What is the activity where you can slowly take the temperature down, bring it all back down so that you can get into the next activity or task without having a student who's still amped up, agitated, and really looking to just still argue through the previous contact. And last but not least, managing blood glucose. If we are not fueling our kids properly, it's very, very difficult for them to practice these skills that I was just outlining because their brain is operating with A, not enough fuel, or B, it's the wrong type of fuel. So managing blood sugar, managing blood glucose also becomes a really helpful thing in order to support our kids here as they're figuring out their way in reducing that conflict. So whether or not your child plays Call of Duty or Roblox or Fortnite or whatever flavor it is this month in terms of screen on screen, I hope that this video has given you a little bit more of an inside track as to perhaps why your kid's experiencing a lot of conflict in real life And if you're looking for a way to reduce those calls or emails from the school, hopefully you have found some of the concepts here in this video to be useful and that you could easily put them into practice with your own child in your own home. That's really all I have for today. If you are really interested in learning more about the work that I do and you found this video helpful, I hope that you will check out the links in the description for a link to my book, The Good Stuff, What Great Parents Do Differently, in addition to access to a really fantastic course that I wrote, From Resistance to Resilience, a course to support parents for kids who are maybe not so keen on what's happening in school. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.